Stanley, Scuba, Sailing, and Adventures.
Welcome back to the Stanley Scuba, Sailing and Adventures World Headquarters. Today we're going to get into the Chasing Gladius MINI S underwater drone setup.
These are not official assembly or operating instructions, so follow at your own risk. I'm opening the memory card storage compartment on top to ensure the memory card is inserted. It would be a bummer to get this thing underwater and find out there's no memory card in it. It comes with a memory card, and there's this black rubber tab which is connected by a little black rubber cord you can see there that covers the memory card. You simply push in a little and it ejects. And same thing, you just push in, push down to get it to lock into place. And this little rubber cover fits only in one way. And then this cap, well, I'll show you before I put the cap on. There's a double O-ring system here, good to visually inspect the O-rings and make sure they look like they've got some lubrication on them. And then hand snug is probably okay with this cap. But if you're not quite sure, there's a slot on the top, and a quarter fits very nicely into that slot. I think if you used a screwdriver, you might mar it up. There's the cap installed. The next thing I'll do while I'm on top is install the carabiner into this hole near the back on this fin. And that'll be used later to secure the tether. So no need to lock that down right now because we'll still need to put the tether loop in there, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. On the back of the drone, there's this black rubber cap that covers the place where you connect the tether. It's not threaded, so you just kind of have to peel it off. See, there are no threads in the cap. It fits snugly, which you would absolutely want it to fit snugly. Before I connect the tether itself, I'm going to prepare the bottom of the drone. I'll remove this cap. This is where the accessory, in this case the grabber claw B, will connect to the drone for power and control. If you look closely at the bottom of the drone, you'll see there are 4 threaded holes where the thumb screws for the grabber claw B will be used to attach it. Here is the grabber claw B. You see the mounting and the 4 holes we'll use to line up with the threaded holes on the drone and the power and control cable that will attach to the drone. Everything lines up. Here's the first thumb screw. Now, these will drop in and screw in easily. If you're feeling any resistance, you might have it cross-threaded. I found that everything on the drone was built to spec. I didn't have to force anything. I didn't feel any resistance when connecting anything. It should go together very easily. Now I'm putting in the thumb screws like I would anything else. Just getting them started a little bit, working in a star or crisscross pattern. Typical assembly using best practices. And once I've gotten them all started, I very quickly, or in fast forward, tighten all those thumb screws down. Now our power and control cable, if you look, you see a notch. There's a corresponding notch in the hole. It's kind of dark. I'm not sure you can see it real well, but it will only fit in one way. And this cable design is the same as both ends of the tether. And it has the same sort of nut that you screw down to connect it. And I don't know if you noticed that. I went kind of quickly, but there was a green O-ring at the end of that cable. You want to ensure that O-ring is in place. The kit came with some extra green O-rings. Now we'll bring in the tether and connect it to the drone. The end of the tether with this loop on it, with the black ball, is the end you want to connect to the drone. Again, notice the end of the cable, the green O-ring in there, and the notch. That cable can only connect in one way, and you want to ensure that green O-ring is in place. This loop we will connect to the carabiner, and then we can go ahead and lock the carabiner. Now we connect the tether to the drone. Again, you shouldn't have to force anything. Get that snug down. You might be wondering what that loop is for. I'm assuming that's in case you have to try to pull on the tether to retrieve the drone. You don't run the risk of pulling the tether out of the end of the drone. Not that you'd want to pull on that really hard, but it gives you a little bit of grace. A very thoughtful design. And I'll put a little slack in the tether and we'll get ready to connect the remote control end. Here's our remote, connection cable, and sunshade. At first, when I did the unboxing, I thought this was a battery cover or something, but it's really a little kickstand. Very nice. And it locks in pretty snugly. I had to push firmly to get it to pop in. Again, another very thoughtful design. This is that connection cable. You see one end indicates the phone end, and I'm using USB-C to USB-C because I have an iPhone that I'll use for display. Plug that into the back of the remote. I've installed the app already. This is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So there's a nice little hole you can thread that power cable or connection cable through in the side of the cradle, which I'm all about cabling and cable management. So I really appreciate that. Again, very thoughtful design. And my phone fits snugly into the cradle. I don't have a really big case on the phone, but I do have a case on it. And I do have a screen protector. Again, note the end of the cable. There's the notch. And there's where it goes into the back of the remote. And maybe here you could see that notch a little bit better in the hole. Again, you shouldn't need to force anything. Everything is designed and built to a very high quality. It just goes together. We'll thumb tighten that. And now we'll turn on the remote. You'll hear some sounds and some lights will flash on the drone as it goes through its startup sequence. Notice this solid green light. The first time I connected it, that was not solid green. And this is the 5G light. I'm doing 5G. This is the mode button. Long pressing changes the mode, and short press engages the mode. The modes of operation that I found were self-stabilizing mode. This means the drone tries to stay horizontal and stable in the water, and depth lock mode, which I also found very useful. I actually used depth lock mode more than I used the self-stabilization mode. Right now in the assembly process, my phone is still not connected to the remote controller. So far, the only way I've been able to successfully connect my phone to the controller is via Wi-Fi, even though I have the cable plugged in. I did ensure the drone's firmware and my phone's operating system were updated. Connecting via Wi-Fi, the factory password, which I haven't changed yet, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I probably will change that at some point. Now you can see the images changed in the app, and we have the correct drone showing. And we hit the start button, and that will take us into the application interface or display interface. I think it's both. You don't want to unlock the drone unless it's in the water. That will start the engines, and you don't want to do that unless it's in the water. So let's dive into the app. We'll start with this gear icon and get into the system settings. Here we can lock the 3D Gladius indicator, which I'll do, and that's going to lock it in the lower left-hand corner. Down here, you can also adjust the compass size. By default, it's set to medium. You can hit the back button. Here's the compass for navigation in the interface. We'll move on to the ROV, speed adjustment. I'm dialing this down to 50. I started at 25. That makes a big difference in how fast the drone moves in the water. Here we can select imperial or metric. Here we can show the ROV's real-time pitch angle when turned on. We'll use the back button navigation and see what that real-time pitch angle looks like. And again, that's the drone's position on the desk. And as I move the drone on the desk, you can see, and that will also show you the pitch. The display immediately adjacent shows you the pitch angle, the light status, the temperature, and depth. Some very useful information. Now let's look at the camera. I'm going to turn on the image stabilization, and let's look at the handle. And there's where you change the password. Haven't done that yet. And the control mode. Let's take a look at that. It comes default, at least mine did, set up for Japan. And here you can see what all of the different options are. I went back to Japan. It just seemed more natural for me. But you'll need to pick one of these that works best for you. And then the power linear mode, I just left that the way it was. Again, these settings are just my preference. This menu opens up some options. You have VR, that would be cool. I'm assuming that's what the HDMI cable connection is for, maybe. And then there's this live option. And I guess this is if you want to record with your phone, you can point the camera at you while it's in the cradle, and you can set the frame rate. You can turn the camera on and off and set it to use the forward or rear facing camera. I would assume you'd use the forward facing camera And then you can turn on the microphone as well. I'm guessing at those. I didn't try those out, but that's my assumption. Now we'll jump back out to the main screen. And let's look at the other options. There's a slow motion. You can turn that off and on. There's a time lapse. Again, that looks like off and on. I couldn't find other settings. And then light. So those two lights on the front of the drone, you can adjust the brightness. I'm going to dial that up a little bit. I'm assuming that's going to impact my battery usage, but I want to ensure I have plenty of light. Turn the VR off. You can hide this menu with the arrow button at the end if you don't want to see it. Next, we'll look at this menu for the camera settings. And here we have, you can set the ISO to auto or manual. There's time-lapse settings, slow motion settings, white balance. You can control some of the colors here, the color tone, contrast, sharpening, mirroring, flipping, image optimization, denoising, saturation, and then this add edit, the OSD. This is kind of cool. You could add user-defined information to the top and the bottom. So if you had a header you wanted to apply or a label or something like that. Next, over in the video settings, I left these as is, I think, but 4K 30 frames per second. I wanted the highest, and I did turn up this bit rate. The preview I left as is. In the camera settings, I switched this to JPEG and DNG. You can shoot one or the other or both. I didn't adjust the burst count. The shutter I left on auto, and then again the preview parameters I left as they were. I find the design of this application for display to be incredibly valuable. There's a lot you can control here. Next, let's look at this puzzle piece. If you click on the puzzle piece in the lower right hand corner, you'll see it auto-detected the grabber claw B. Now you can change the setting, switch this on, and what it does is change the control for the accessory to the wheel. So on the outside of the remote control, there's a button and there's a wheel. If you use the button, it just opens and then closes the claw. If you use the wheel, you can open the claw slightly. You can control how far the claw closes. So I really enjoy using the wheel function. But if you press the button while you've got that set, you get this indicator that no, you can't use the button, you have to use the wheel. Personal preference. I went ahead and bought the Chasing backpack that's made for this drone, and it's a great backpack and everything fits neatly inside. There are little dust covers for each piece, and I couldn't think of a better way to transport it.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.